Well, medical humanities is really a term that's misleading and almost inappropriate the way it goes. But what people really mean by it is the application of the humanistic disciplines like literature, history, philosophy, to the matter of medicine, to the way we practice medicine, to the way we behave as physicians, to our writing, to our whole attitude on the profession itself. It's not for everybody. Some people confuse it, however, with medical humanism in the sense of sympathy for the patient. And of course that's important, but that's not under the rubric of medical humanities. The first time it had any official recognition was when the National Endowment for the Humanities established a program in human values, the humanities, and ethics in medicine. And I happened to end up being the chairman of that. But the term itself, therefore, embraces those several different directions I've talked about. Because medicine is at heart a moral enterprise. The law, in some ways, understands it better than medical profession. It says it's a situation in which you have a fiduciary relationship, a trust relationship. And so when you come into my office, I say to you, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What is your understanding? What are your expectations? Don't answer. I would do that if I had the time. But ordinarily you would say, well, gee, this guy has the technique and the knowledge that I need. And the second thing is, I hope he's going to use it in my interest, not in the interests of the insurance company, the hospital, the group he's working with, his own pocketbook. Because you as a patient are vulnerable. You're actually so vulnerable that I can take advantage of you. You don't know what's wrong. You're in distress. You're in pain. You're anxious. And here you are putting yourself in the power, literally, of another human being. What more trusting relationship could there be? I invite your trust, and you have to place it in me if you want to be treated. So that makes it a moral enterprise because ethics deals with the right and the wrong of human acts. Acts of one to another, acts toward the biosphere, acts toward every encounter they have with another person. No. But what has happened is their perception of what is morally justifiable has changed. Not because they're worse people. People are forever asking me, well, look at our young doctors. They're not as ethical as you were in your day. That's a lot of baloney. They were a biopsy of the American public, just as we were a biopsy. Some good, some bad, some lousy. What's different today is that the social milieu has changed. There are attitudes legitimated, acts legitimated, which would have been intolerable in our time. I could go with those in detail, but basically that's the difference. For example, just looking at the relationship as primarily a commercial relationship, or to have a doctor own a hospital. I took all my residency at Bellevue Hospital. We'd never send a patient to doctor's hospital owned by a doctor because there's an implicit conflict of interest. Today we have doctor entrepreneurs, we have doctors who buy MRIs. After it's amortized, they continue to keep the price where it was at the amortization rate, so on. That's legitimated because business has so infiltrated the profession that it's taken for granted. That doesn't make it right, but it explains it. So an explanation, but then the question is, what do you do about it? And that's a different story.
What do you think about it?
Splendid. Magnificent. From what you've told me about it, yes, and what I know about it. I've been involved on and off here at Drew over the years, particularly in the early days of development of the program, which is different from what it is today. But I think the efforts that she's carrying on with Berber, I didn't mean to play it down. Notice I said it's ordinarily, there was a time when the physician had a liberal arts education, propedeutic to going to medical school. And they could and knew something about the Greek classics, the Roman classics, knew something about the Renaissance. They knew something about literature of their own time. But that's hard to come by now. It's hard to come by a liberal arts education before one goes into the profession. So what she's doing is resuscitating that interest, because it does make the physician a better person. And we don't put enough emphasis on that. We talk about the humanity with the patient. But the humanities are transforming if you really are dedicated to them. We have a surgeon here who's, I guess he's not here, but who's, or cardiologist, I guess, who's interested in literature and so on. For a human being to have that interest, he cannot avoid seeing what he's been reading and thinking about in the real world about him. And then he contemplates it himself. And to write about something is to feel it. And medicine's a wonderful way, because medicine, in literature, we use our eyes. We observe, we watch things. The good writer, and I am not one, observe carefully. See what about them.